I'll provide an overview of the increasing role that federal funding plays in Puerto Rico's budget and its implications for critical public services. I'll walk through historical trends, service area allocations, and the challenges ahead. Puerto Rico is increasingly reliant on federal funds to deliver vital public services and support vulnerable populations. Nearly 50% of the fiscal year 2025 budget is comprised of federal funds as compared to 34% in fiscal year 2017. The increase in federal funds as a share of the total budget in fiscal year 2025 is driven by non-recurring federal funds that support disaster relief and COVID-19 recovery efforts. It's important to note that 4.9 billion of this amount in fiscal year 2025 is non-recurring, related to disaster recovery and COVID-19 response. Excluding these, the recurring federal share will be about 31%, slightly lower than in fiscal year 2017. Those non-recurring federal funds will not be available in the future years, so there could be the requirement to adjust the budget in the future due to the uncertainty of those funds. Federal funding to Puerto Rico increased beginning fiscal year 2020, primarily due to the funding provided to support hurricane, earthquake, and COVID-19 recovery efforts. Funding was critical to support the reconstruction of infrastructure and housing and to provide continuity to student education needs. The federal funds that are more recurring in nature support critical services to the residents of the island, including healthcare, affordable housing, access to education, and nutrition assistance. The Commonwealth's reliance on federal funding will decline as those non-recurrent funds will expire. In addition, the Commonwealth could face a Medicaid fiscal cliff beginning in fiscal year 2028, where it becomes responsible for a significantly higher share of Medicaid expenses. This risk will need to be closely monitored to understand any changes by Congress that could impact the projected Medicaid fiscal cliff in fiscal year 2028. As previously mentioned, Puerto Rico has received non-recurring federal funds in recent years to support reconstruction and education recovery efforts. While funding for those programs has been stable in the past, recent announcement by the federal government on reductions could accelerate reductions across the Commonwealth agencies. In the aftermath of Hurricane Maria in 2017, Puerto Rico's education system faced substantial challenges, including infrastructure damage and resources shortages, which was further impacted by COVID-19. As a result, the majority of non-recurring federal funds received by the Department of Education supported critical recovery efforts that included assistance for teachers' compensation, student supplies, technology, and building repairs. Those non-recurring funds has mostly been spent and are set to expire next year in fiscal year 2026. While the Commonwealth has identified funding to cover certain expenses previously funded by one-time funds, the government may need to make adjustments to the budget to cover the remaining operating expenses that will need to be continued. The federal funds that are recurring in nature will continue to provide enhanced services to students with disabilities, provide access to meals, and support students from disadvantaged and low-income backgrounds. Currently, as a result of income levels, approximately 1.4 million Puerto Ricans rely on Medicaid for healthcare. Puerto Rico's grant allocation has historically been capped by federal legislation at approximately $500 million annually. Recent federal acts have temporarily increased funding through fiscal year 2027. These increases were designed to provide additional relief to the Commonwealth during and following the COVID-19 pandemic, given the rising healthcare needs of the population in Puerto Rico. Beginning fiscal year 2028, the Commonwealth may face a Medicaid fiscal cliff, becoming responsible for a significantly higher share of Medicaid expenses. Since fiscal year 2025, over $250 million annually has been funded by the Commonwealth General Fund to cover operating expenditures previously supported by expiring federal funds. The March 1st, 2025 government budget submission considers $276 million funded by the Commonwealth General Fund to cover operating expenditures as previously supported by expiring federal funds. These costs include salary increases provided to teachers and public safety positions, including correctional officers, firefighters, paramedics, and dispatchers. In addition, students' transportation needs have been funded. While certain costs have been covered, there are additional risks that will need to be carefully monitored. These risks include federal executive orders announcing grant reductions and terminations that could impact Commonwealth agencies, potential expiration of ESSER funds impacting the Department of Education, as previously mentioned, the Medicaid fiscal cliff. Continued coordination between local and federal authorities will be crucial to ensuring stability and sustainable progress. Given the evolving funding risks, the fiscal year 2026 budget certification process plays a critical role in understanding the Commonwealth's financial position, planning for the changes in fiscal policy, and ensuring that resources are allocated responsibly in an environment of competing priorities and ongoing uncertainty. On May 1st, the government of Puerto Rico submitted a revised proposed budget for the fiscal year 2026 in response to the notice of violation. The Oversight Board is currently reviewing the submission. The next key milestone is next Monday, when the Oversight Board will submit the general fund budget to the legislature. The board will continue working closely with both the government and the legislature throughout the remaining of the budget process.